This is clearly the beginning of the video. I have never seen his video before. But I know the secret code at the end. The pond is vast, and I have now said it. So here is my response video. Minding my own stuff, and then this video there, and I was just gonna play it in the background, and then I immediately had to say words. Oh my, like I disagree. Ish, maybe, kind of, sort of. I got 2 minutes in, and then I immediately had words to say. I don't know if I'll disagree with the entirety of this. It's just, I disagree with a lot already.
D&D isn't a game. It's a mindset. If it means overhauling everything and playing an entirely different game and still calling it D&D, then go for it. This is the sentiment in the video that I disagreed with the strongest. Mostly because it strongly goes against my feelings on TTRPGs. D&D is a product. It's a piece of merchandise. D&D is a brand made by Wizards of the Coast. You are allowed to bastardize it. Hell, most of my time playing D&D has been a bastardized version of it. We in the community call this act of bastardizing homebrew. And I've been a long-standing fan of homebrew. Again, my entire table is ran through homebrew. But I disagree on the notion that the game is still the same game after homebrew. When you've homebrewed this game, you've created a new experience. Yes, it may have D&D as a core, but I feel like as you strip away or attach more and more things to it, that it becomes more and more distinct from the game as described in the books. I don't feel that it's any more fair, and I don't feel like it's fair any longer to say that you're still playing Dungeons and Dragons.
Everything so far is true to a certain extent, but the problem was he harped on what it says in the books while simultaneously ignoring what it says in the books. The books tell you to do it. That's part of the game. It tells you to, you can either use this template or you can make your own. You can incorporate things of your own. That's actually, most TTRPGs do this. They'll tell you to do that. That's perfectly fine. That's part of the game. Making stuff is literally part of the game. I actually cracked open my physical book. I don't have any digital books, so I have the Internet Archive. And when you first open it up, you could probably skip the introduction if you want, whatever, and just go to part 1, right? So even here in part 1, you could go into more of the nuance of the introduction if you want. I don't really care. Can I zoom? How do I zoom? I've never actually used this thing before. Yeah, you can, the very first thing it tells you, part 1, Master of Worlds. Every DM is the creator of his or her own campaign world. Whether you invent a world, adapt a world from a favorite movie or novel, or used a published setting for the D&D campaign, you make that world your own over the course of the campaign. It's literally the first paragraph tells you to do these things. That's part of the game. Homebrew is not defying the game. That's literally a part of it. It's the DM's choice whether or not they want to incorporate that or not. And then if you're going into the conventions or whatever, they have events. Those don't typically run homebrew stuff. Sure, as far as I know. But when you're DMing, you don't get to be like the decider of whether or not another DM is allowed to call it D&D. Especially since it tells you to do these things. But I don't want to be too rude. I want to be able to I want to say his piece. I want to be able to engage with like the whole thing or whatever, because like I'll feel bad if I don't.
Kind of like what Noble playing Dungeons and Dragons. I kind of like what Noble is doing. How Noble is a collection of modifications to the game, and it has built an identity around that. I think that's great.
You mean Nimble?
But I think we ought to forget this idea that homebrew is still D&D. If you're playing soccer and you decide, hey guys, what if we hold the ball with our hands? And what if we bounce the ball around the room? And what if instead of kicking the ball into a net, we throw it into a hoop? We aren't playing basketball anymore. Sorry, we aren't playing football anymore. That's basketball.
This would have been a good point if the game didn't tell you to do that, though. The game encourages you to do it. Like, here's a way to play it. That's what D&D has for its... My bad, I was looking away from the thing. That's what D&D has for, like, its settings and stuff. Here is a way you can play it. You can play it in one of our worlds if you want. You can play it with these items if you want. You can completely change these items if you want. You can make new items if you want. You can pull out some other items if you want. That's the game. That's what D&D is. That's, again, other TTRPGs do this too. This isn't like a weird thing. They do this. It's the crux of it. The soccer analogy doesn't work because soccer doesn't say, okay, go, here is a framework, but you don't have to play by these rules. Where D&D definitively tells you to do so. Or you can if you want. You don't have to. You can use our stuff, but you don't have to. That's the fundamental difference.
You know, there's nothing wrong with drifting away from what the game is. You aren't lesser for doing that. And I think you do yourself favors when you admit to what you're doing. That's not D&D. That is your own flavor of TTRPG built around D&D. And I think you ought to, have some sort of reverence for the thing you've created. Maybe give it a name. I have a friend that's what he did. He has a set of homebrew rules around D&D, and he's named it. And I think that's pretty neat.
Yeah, you could do all of that. That's all perfectly fine. And the thing of it is, you can just only ever call it that. That's perfectly fine. But to say that you have to is disingenuous to what D&D is. You define D&D as the game as a whole, but you ignored the fact that D&D is a template. It's a thing that allows you to make games off of it, an experience off of it. You don't have to use any of the stuff if you don't want to. You could just use frame of reference if you wanted to. It's just that one thing that's the problem. Like, it's just that one thing.
They are not making efforts to regain your trust because they value your trust. They are making efforts to regain your trust because your trust is the gateway to your wallet. So, if you're going to continue playing D&D, I at least ask that you go through homebrew and third-party producers. I ask that if you're going to continue playing 5e, that you fuel the third-party scene rather than WotC's pockets.
I think you should do what you find fun. Life is too short to be concerned about the nuance of crap here or there. If he feels particularly strongly against playing D&D, then yeah, don't play D&D. No one should make you. But if you want to play D&D, then yeah, go play D&D. I mean, yeah, WotC is doing some shady, scammy stuff, and it sucks. It sucks to see that. It does. But the world is going to be a place where so many things are going to take away the small flame of joy that you have. But you don't have to let them take that from you. If you can still have fun, have your fun. We can still critically engage with it, talk about it. If we think it's time for us to move on, it's time for us to move on. If someone wants your genuine advice on a particular thing, hey, should I get this? You could tell them about the business practices and tell them you disagree with it. I think that's perfectly fine. But I don't know, to tell people what to do, no one's going to want to be told what to do. They're just going to end up wanting to do the opposite anyway. You could give the advice and then live your life, right?
Anyway, it's your choice to decide what direction you choose.
Yep.
I am no authority or police
There you go.
figure to dictate how you navigate your hobby.
Yep, there we go.